So let's talk for a second about the nature of this election when it comes to demographics. So there was an assumption that I think really began to take hold in 2012 rather than 2008. I think that if the country does end up coming apart over the long haul and our optimism is unjustified, I think that people are going to look back to the election of 2012 as a seminal moment, mainly because it was the moment when Barack Obama shifted pretty openly from the candidate who was going to unify Americans into a candidate who openly wished to divide Americans by class and by racial group and by sexual preference, and then to cobble together a coalition. And it was going to be this coalition of the ascendant over the rest of over the rest of America. And Democrats seem to wed themselves to this argument, this sort of demographics as destiny argument, that as America became plurality minority, that America would turn more blue in the process. What Trump did, and it's fairly incredible considering that the lead attack on Trump was that he was a vicious, horrible white supremacist and racist, is he won a historic number of Latino votes. He won a historic number of black votes. He seems to be realigning a lot of the demographics in the United States. It's particularly true in Florida. It was certainly true in Texas, the most Hispanic district in America. 96% Hispanic district in Texas went 52-47 for Biden, which is astonishingly high performance for a Republican in a district like that. 55% of Cuban Americans voted for Trump in this last election cycle in Florida by the exit polls. He outperformed, and you can see Democrats starting to panic over all of this. Why is it that you think that Trump, maybe the most, by conventional wisdom, unlikely person to break the demographic stranglehold that Democrats were relying upon, ended up starting to make serious inroads into breaking that demographic stranglehold?
I don't want to be too tripartite, but I think there were three reasons. The first is he substituted class for race, and that's a fluid concept. And he basically really worked hard at lowering minority unemployment. As one guy said to me, I was on a roof, Mexican-American guy said, I was on a roof hammering, and for the first time in my life, two people came by and yelled at me, get down on the roof, I'll pay you $2 more an hour. And I said, so what? And he said, nobody's ever bid on my labor before. I had to go bid. So he gave people dignity by class considerations. And it basically was very threatening. It basically said, if you were a poor Mexican-American guy or a poor white guy in Tulare or a poor black guy, I'm going to worry about you, and I'm not going to be offended, or I'm not going to be apologetic to Oprah or LeBron James, because all of these wealthy elites of any color are on that side of the class divide, and I'm with you on the other. And the second, that took a lot of authenticity. So can you imagine Donald Trump said, I'm so tired, like Hillary? He'd never do it. Or I'm going to put you all in chains. He never modulates his accent. I talked to a guy, he came during the first campaign to talk to a bunch of wealthy farmers. I saw one of them. I said, what was he like? Did he have the caterpillar hat on? The blue Levi's? No, he had the whole thing. He had the orange skin, he had this tie, he had the suit. It was 107 degrees. He had his black wingtips, and he is what he is. I said, did he change his accent? Straw in the mouth? No. Queen's accent or whatever it is, they didn't know. And so people feel that he's authentic, and that helps. So he's not a billionaire anymore. He's authentic, and he actually seems at ease with middle-class people. As one guy told me, Trump is not averse to getting in the ring with anybody because he's actually been in a ring. He's been in a wrestling ring when his entrepreneur days and world wrestling and all that stuff. So that's the second thing, that he's authentic and he substituted class. And then he hit on something that was very rare. And I think this is something that these people have no idea. He got on the idea that these very wealthy, upscale, progressive liberals, the university professor, the Hollywood entertainer, the media anchor person, people don't like them. They don't like their comportment. They don't like their accent. They don't like their condescending manner. And Trump made fun of them. And that really resonated with minorities who don't like them either. But they felt that they were indebted to them, or they had to, in a quid pro quo fashion, vote for them. But when you talk to people and they see Trump, I think Jason Whitlock said on national TV, a lot of black young men like Trump because he doesn't care, and he has a certain image. I guess it was a machismo image. But that's not so much my point. My point is that nasal-sounding pajama boy, life of Julia elite, Trump doesn't like. and he attacks them, he makes fun of them. And a lot of minority people say, you know what, I don't want to be told what to do by those guys anymore. They're just antithetical to my religion, they're antithetical to my family, they're antithetical to what I do in my own life. And they've never overhauled a car, they've never been in a bad situation, they don't know how people live. And I'm going to listen to those guys? And he hit on that. And they thought it would be impossible because they kept saying he's a billionaire. It wasn't a matter of money. It was a matter of attitude and authenticity.
To dig in on that a little bit, one of the things that is so astonishing here is that the conventional wisdom, and that's really what Trump's career has been about, is blowing up conventional wisdom in a variety of ways. Many good, some bad. But when it comes to the conventional wisdom in the Republican Party after 2012, when there was real underperformance with Latino voters, is that Republicans needed to make extraordinary concessions on illegal immigration in order to win the Hispanic and Latino vote and start making inroads. The evidence simply was not there for that, considering that Republicans in Texas are not exactly open borders fanatics, and yet they were winning an outsized share of the Hispanic and Latino vote in Texas. And Hispanic Latino vote in Florida was cutting much heavier toward Republicans than it was in California. And in California Republicans have tended to be much softer on illegal immigration than maybe some of their compatriots in other states. And yet, after 2012, there was this report that came out. It basically suggested if you want to make inroads with Latino Americans, then the best way to do that is to make concessions on immigration. Here comes Trump, and he says, I'm going to build a wall. There are a lot of criminals crossing the border. I'm going to deport people who are criminals, and then I'm going to deport a bunch of people who are here illegally, and I'm going to set up new immigration standards. And then he ends up winning more of the Latino vote by leaps and bounds than Mitt Romney ever did, and it's not particularly close. So why do you think that is? Does that just speak to a fundamental disconnect in the psyche of most human beings between policy and attitude, and his attitude just mattered more? Or is it that maybe everybody is sort of getting the conventional wisdom wrong, and it turns out a lot of Latino Americans don't particularly like illegal immigration, just like a lot of Black Americans don't like rioting and looting?
I think it's the latter. I think a lot in the Republican Party were very insular. They're in an echo chamber. When they talk about Hispanics, it was Yolanda who does my hair, and I give her my extra clothes, or it was Jose who cuts my grass, and I talk to him. And they don't get out and put their kids in the same school with them, live side by side with them, talk to them every day. And when you do that, you hear a whole different world. Last week, a woman, I saw her on the street. I used to know her pretty well, Mexican-American. I said, what's going on? She said, I just got back from Mexico to see my dad's house. I went down to Oaxaca. There were other people in it. They just took it over, and we couldn't do anything. But she goes, that's Mexicans for you. That's Mexico. And then she said, and then I got pulled over twice because they called me a gringa, because my Spanish is pretty rusty, and they detected an American accent. And they called her basically what we call a gringo. And so she said, I was so happy to get back here. I just saw another guy at the lumber yard this morning, and he said, this is the funniest, he said, Victor, what the hell has happened? And this isn't Mexico. What are we doing? I came up here to get away from this stuff. This election, it's like Mexico. And I said, I know it is. And so my point is that they're just, all of these minorities are just people. And they're no better or no worse than white people. They're just people. And when you either have this condescending attitude or you have this elitist idea that you think that you know exactly what they want, rather than, would I want my kid in a school where they had to get rid of the AP classes because no one spoke English because they all came in from Mexico and we had English as sec. Would I want my kid in a school where M13 or Norteños or Sereno gangs were beating people up if their Spanish had a detectable American accent in it? Would I want to live in a neighborhood when they shoot people and then the guy gets out with no bail and he comes back and he tries to shoot me because I was the guy that called the police? And these are all things that happen every day. And so when they see Trump, and you're right, close the border, and when he added, we'll do something with our DACA people. And things that drive the left really crazy about Trump when he says, I love the Mexican people. I love Mexican people. Or he'll say, our farmers, or we got to help our vets. That first person plural possessive our DACA kids, they think nobody goes. Yeah, they do, because he shows that he has an empathy and he likes to be with people. So Republican Party, they kept saying that the limousine liberals were condescending, but boy, a Mitt Romney candidate, that was not going to happen. And I'm not taking anything away from Mitt Romney, but you can see he almost won. And he almost won because a lot of deplorables said, you know what, I can't take Obama and I'll vote for this guy. Not enough of them, but there's an opportunity here to recalibrate not only race in America, but the entire Republican Party is the party of the middle class, of minorities, fighting against a party of the very wealthy and the very poor.
I hope you enjoyed that clip from the Ben Shapiro Show Sunday Special. If you did, go ahead and hit the subscribe button so you stay up to date on all of our future content.